Number 5, a giant shocker. Now let's just take a look at this entire thing, and you see it's a giant shocker. It is the 2007 NFC Championship, played in 2008, of course, between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers out there in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where the temperature was -1 degrees, and with the wind chill of 12 miles per hour, it was -23 wind chill. That is cold. That's super cold. That's something that honestly, you're gonna have that kind of weather. It's just where you have to prove how good of a team you are is through that. It really, really is. It's all up to that, and it's one of my favorite games to watch repeatedly. I think Brett Favre and Eli Manning really gave us a show. The defense gave us a show, and teams playing on rough conditions is always entertaining to watch. So why don't we start with the Packers starters? We got QB Brett Favre. We got running back Ryan Grant, fullback John Kuhn. We also had another fullback called Corey Hall. Our receivers, we had Donald Driver. We had tight end Donald Lee. We had the offensive line of Chad Clifton, Darren College, Scott Wells, Jason Spitz, and Mark Tauschker. We had the D-line of Aaron Campman, Ryan Pickett, Corey Williams, and Colin Jenkins. We had the linebacking core of A.J. Hawk, Nick Barnett, Brady Papinga, and then the secondary of Charles Woodson, Al Harris, Atari Bigby, and Nick Collins. For the Giants, we had QB Eli Manning, running back Brandon Jacobs, fullback Madison Hitchcock, receivers Amani Toomer and Plexico Burris, tight end Kevin Boss, offensive line David Dio, Rich Subert, Sean O'Hara, Chris Snee, Kareem McKenzie, defensive line Michael Strahan, Fred Dobbins, Barry Cofield, and O.C. Umenyiora. Our linebackers were Reggie Torbor, Antonio Pierce, Kawika Mitchell, and the corners and secondary is R.W. McQuarters, Corey Webster, James Butler, and Jabril Wilson. So overall, of course, the Green Bay team was the favorites. They played in cold weather before. They know how to deal with it. But you will see how it went. So start with the first quarter with 4 minutes and 50 seconds left. Lawrence Tynes' 29-yard field goal made it 3-0 New York. We go to the second quarter. That's all that happened there, scoring-wise. Second quarter, 11:41 left. You got Lawrence Tynes' 37-yard field goal makes it 6-0 New York. Then with 11:18 left, Donald Driver 90-yard touchdown pass from Brett Favre makes it 6-7 Green Bay. And then with the minute 30 in the half, Mason Crosby's 36-yard field goal makes it 6-10 Green Bay. They come back, third quarter, 7:56 left. Brandon Jacobs gets a 1-yard rush. It's a touchdown. It's now 13-10 New York. Then 5 minutes later, 5 minutes left, pretty much 3 minutes later, around there, 2 minutes later, Donald Lee gets a 12-yard pass from Brett Favre. Now it's 13-17 Green Bay. And then with 2 minutes, 12 seconds, again, Mar Bradshaw 44-yard rush touchdown makes it 20-17 New York. So it's just back and forth game, which is very exciting. And then the only action in the fourth quarter, 11 minutes and 46 seconds left. Mason Crosby, 37-yard field goal. It's tied, 20-20, and that's pretty awesome. That's really awesome, actually. And then pretty much, the only thing with that was Green Bay, New York. They didn't have a lot of chances. They really didn't to score. There was actually for a 23-20 ball game. That's really impressive. Especially for a cold, winded game. This isn't like the Tampa Bay St. Louis game where it was pretty much a dome. They just were going at it defensively, just talented. They're all talented. It's just extreme weathers is just more impressive to me to see them score more. I feel like in the dome they should have scored a little more than 6-11. But anyway, this Green Bay and New York team fought to the end. 12 minutes, 25 seconds left. Lawrence Tynes, 47-yard field goal, kicks the New York Giants to the Super Bowl, winning 23-20. And Brett Favre is on the list again for another heartbreak of an NFC Championship game, which he could have won to the Super Bowl and didn't. But you never know. I feel like if Green Bay went to the Super Bowl, I don't know if they would have. I feel like the Patriots would probably be 19-0. I don't think these Packers would have had enough firepower really to go against New England. I'm not sure. Like, they had a really good team. It's just New York really, they went because of the will. I'm not sure, having a record like the Packers did, they didn't really struggle as much. So maybe not much of, that was on their shoulders. Where the Giants, they had a lot of people that could have lost their jobs, where they just had to, you know, win the Super Bowl technically. Like, they really did. A lot of pressure, so maybe that's why. That's what I feel like. Giants, though, yeah, would go on to win and shock the world. Number 4, Manning finally gets one from Brady. So we're not jumping to Eli Manning. We're jumping to a Peyton Manning now. We're jumping from the 2 brothers on this list, which is kind of cool to say. That we're including both of them on the list. It's pretty cool. But anyway, let's get back to exactly what we're doing here. And it's number 4, and it's Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. Tom Brady's owned Peyton Manning pretty much his entire career, really, pretty much. From then on, Peyton didn't even get to the Super Bowl. Tom was already won, I believe at that time, 3 by then. And you're just saying to yourself, when is Peyton going to get one? He's listed as the best quarterback. He's better than Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's definitely shown that he can win, and Peyton can't. He can't even get past certain round, and he can't even get to the big game. And this is really, his legacy was on the line in this game, I feel like. And his legacy is written as a Super Bowl champion, and everything could have been turned if he lost this game. I honestly believe this was one of his, if not the biggest game of his career, because he got to finally taste what the Super Bowl's like. But imagine if he didn't make the Super Bowl this year. He wouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl. Maybe he wouldn't even been signed by the Broncos because they didn't really think of him as a Super Bowl champ, A lot of things could have happened, and a lot of things could have been changed in this aspect if the Colts lost. So it's the Patriots and the Colts. It's a typical battle between Manning and Brady. And all I can say is it was one of those thrashings in the beginning where, like, maybe Pats are just going to go back, all right? And then it was just keep going back and forth. It was really entertaining. It was one of the most offensively entertaining championship games of all time. So let's just go into it, dive into it. The offensive, pretty much the starters. Let's take a look at the Colts. So you got QB Peyton Manning, running back Joseph Addai, wide receivers Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. You also had Ben Utic and Dallas Clark, tight end. Offensive line Tariq Glenn, Ryan Lilja, Jeff Saturday, Jake Scott, and Ryan Deem. At the D-line, you got Robert Mathis, Anthony McFarland, Raheem Brock, and Dwight Freeney. Linebackers Rob Morris, Gary Brackett, Cato June. And the corners, Nick Harper, Jason David, Antoine Bethea, and Bob Sanders. For the Pats, you got QB Tom Brady, running back Corey Dillon, receivers Jabbar Gaffney, Reche Caldwell, tight ends Ben Watson and Daniel Graham, offensive line Matt Light, Logan Mankins, Dan Coppin, Steve Neal, and Nick Getzker. Defensive line Ty Warren, Vince Wilfork, Richard Seymour. Linebacking core Mike Vrabel, Roosevelt Colvin, Teddy Bruschi, and Eric Alexander. And secondary Asante Samuel, Ellis Hobbs, James Sanders, and Artrell Hawkins. So, for the most part, big name guys that you probably would know. I do, at least. I'm not sure if you do, but pretty good. So let's just start with it. First quarter, 7 minutes, 24 seconds left in the quarter. Logan Mankins, offensive fumble recovery in the end zone. It's 7-0 New England. Okay, 48 seconds left. Adam Vinatieri, 42-yard field goal. It is now 7-3. Second quarter, 10 minutes, 18 seconds left. Corey Dillon, 7-yard rush, touchdown, 14-3 New England. 9:25 left. Asante Samuel, 39-yard interception return, touchdown, 21-3 New England. And with 7 seconds left, Adam Vinatieri, 26-yard field goal, 21-6. So not great. Come back, third quarter, 8 minutes, 13. Peyton Manning, 1-yard touchdown run, 21-13. And then with 4 minutes left, Dan Klecko, 1-yard pass from Peyton Manning, including a 2-point conversion. Marvin Harrison from Peyton Manning makes it even, tied 21-21. But with a minute 25, Jabbar Gaffney gets a 6-yard pass from Brady, touchdown, 28-21 New England. In the fourth quarter, 13:24 left. Jeff Saturday gets an offensive fumble recovery in the end zone. It's now 28-28. Then 7 minutes 42 seconds left. Steven Gostkowski gets 28-yard field goal, makes it 31-28 New England. But then after that, with 5 minutes 31 left, Adam Vinatieri, 36-yard field goal, ties it up at 31. Then with 3 minutes and 49 seconds left, Steven Gostkowski, 43-yard field goal, makes it 34-31. And then a minute left, Joseph Addai gets a 3-yard rush, and it's 34-38 Indianapolis. Well, with that minute, The reason is a lot of people panic because Tom Brady's very good at making that minute last and count to really get to the Super Bowl. The only thing that was great is that they needed a touchdown, so Indianapolis had a greater chance of winning. And they stopped him, interception, and just like that, the Colts were going to the Super Bowl, and they would went on and defeat the Bears, pretty solid, and they would win the Super Bowl, and Peyton would finally get his Super Bowl. So, number 3, the drive. For Cleveland sports fans, they hate this AFC Championship game because of how it ended. This was a Cleveland team that had home field advantage, was right there when they wanted them, and they had the ability to get to the Super Bowl, and this was really the closest they got to a possibility of a Super Bowl, because ever since then, Cleveland is one of the few teams, if not the only team, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the few teams. There's a couple more that have never been to a Super Bowl. Never in their history have ever gone to a Super Bowl. They may have won titles in terms of before in the 50s, but that's doesn't count as a Super Bowl. So to me, they didn't get to the Super Bowl ever is pretty sad. This was one of their chances where they were so close to it. But there was a guy named John Elway that was able to really lead this Broncos team to victory. So let's just take a look at this game. Very, very entertaining. We start with the Browns starters. QB Bernie Kosar, running back Ernest Biner, fullback Kevin Mack, receivers Webster Slaughter and Reggie Longhorn, tight end Ozzie Newsome, offensive line Paul Farron, Ricky Bolden, Mike Bob, Dan Fike, and Cody Rizini. Defensive line Reggie Camp, Bob Golick, Carl Hairston. Linebackers Chip Banks, Eddie Johnson, Anthony Griggs, Clay Matthews. Secondary Frank Minifield, Hanford Dixon, Ray Ellis, and Chris Rockins. For the Broncos, you got QB John Elway. You got running back Sammy Winder. Receivers Steve Watson and Vance Johnson. Tight ends Orson Mobley and Joey Hackett. Offensive line Dave Studdard, Keith Bishop, Bill Bryan, Mark Cooper, and Kenny Lanier. Defensive line Andre Townsend, Craig Cragen, Roland Jones. Linebackers Jim Ryan, Carl Mecklenburg, Ricky Hunley, and Tom Jackson. And secondary Lewis Wright, Mike Harden, Dennis Smith, and Steve Foley. So, yeah, let's just get right into the game. First quarter, you got Herman Fodno, 6-yard pass from Bernie Kosar, and makes it 7-0 Cleveland. Second quarter, Rich Carlos, 19-yard field goal. It's 3-7 now. Broncos again. Joe Wilhite, 1-yard rush. That's a touchdown. It's 10-7 Denver. Browns, they get Mark Mosley, 29-yard field goal. It makes it 10-10. In the third quarter, Rich Carlos, 26-yard field goal, 13-10 Denver. In the fourth quarter, Mark Mosley, 24-yard field goal, 13-13. Then the Browns, Brian Brennan, 48-yard pass from Bernie Kosar. It's 13-20 Cleveland. And just like that, that's like deep in the fourth, and you're thinking, all right, they got this. And John Elway drives them all the way down. And 5-yard touchdown pass to Mark Jackson. It's 20-20, tied, go to overtime. At that point, the Browns' hopes, really their heads were not in it. They just thought we lost the game. In my opinion, they should have kept their head in it. I feel like they definitely could have stopped them. They could have definitely tried to really try to get the ball back, try to get something going. Broncos got it, kicked a 33-yarder from Rich Carlos, and Denver wins it 23-20, bringing them to the Super Bowl where they would be annihilated. But it was a great AFC Championship game. Definitely feel really bad for the Browns team. And John Elway's legacy kind of began from this game. So, I mean, things were born. So, number 2, the catch. So, pretty much the catch is the start of the 49ers dynasty, the beginning of Joe Montana's legacy as one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time, as him being this comeback guy, and really stamping a legacy in 49ers football history as not being the losers anymore, but as being the winners, and dethroning the Dallas Cowboys that once was America's team, was kind of shifting into, well, you know, anyone can really has a chance to make a name for themselves. You just have to be really good. So it was big for the Bay Area. So let's take a look at exactly how everything played out. And we're going to start with these starters for both teams. We're going to go with the 49ers first. We got QB Joe Montana, fullback Earl Cooper, receivers Dwight Clark, Mike Schumann, and Mike Wilson, tight end Charlie Young, offensive line Dan Audick, John Ayers, Fred Quillen, Randy Cross, and Keith Fanhorst, defensive line Jim Stuckey, Archie Reese, and Dwayne Board, linebackers Willie Harper, Jack Reynolds, Craig Pukey, and Keena Turner, a secondary Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson, and Dwight Hicks. On the Cowboys, you got QB Danny White, running back Tony Dorsett, fullback Ron Springs, receivers Tony Hill and Drew Pearson, tight end Billy Joe Dupree, offensive line Pat Donovan, Herbert Scott, Tom Rafferty, Kurt Peterson, and Jim Cooper, defensive line Tutala Jones, Larry Bethea, Randy White, and Harvey Martin, linebackers Mike Hegman, Rob Brunig, D.D. Lewis, and Everson Walls, Dennis Thurman, Charlie Waters, and Michael Downs are the ones that round out the secondary. So let's first just jump into exactly what happened so you guys get a glimpse of exactly what happened. So in the first quarter, Freddie Solomon, 8-yard pass from Joe Montana, touchdown, 7-0 San Francisco. But then after that, Raphael Septien, the kicker, 44-yard field goal, 3-7. Cowboys, 20 White, 26-yard pass from Danny White. It is touchdown, Dallas, 10-7. Second quarter rolls around. Dwight Clark gets a 20-yard pass from Joe Montana, 10-14. Won't be the last time they connect. And Tony Dorsett gets his 5-yard rush for a touchdown, making it back 17-14 in favor of Dallas. Third quarter, only action, Johnny Davis, 2-yard run, touchdown, 17-21. It is now San Francisco's lead. In the fourth quarter, Raphael Septien, 22-yard field goal, 20-21 now. Doug Crosby, 21-yard pass from Danny White in the end zone, touchdown. It's now 27-21, Dallas in favor of San Francisco in the Bay Area. And that's when Joe Montana's legacy comes into play. He leads them down the field, you know. They're gaining some yards. And he's got to find someone. It's pretty much the last ticking seconds of the game. Joe Montana pretty much rolls back. He's bouncing to the outside. He's looking. He's patient. Right when the defenders are right about to tackle him, he finds that Dwight Clark right there in the end zone. He throws it to him, really high too. It's a really high throw, and Dwight Clark jumps for it, leaps, gets it right there, and it's pretty much gonna be known the catch, because he makes it, he gets it, and just like that, the 49ers are in the Super Bowl. They're in the Super Bowl. They got to the Super Bowl, and that's when the 49ers 80s dynasty became reality. So a lot of things were born from this game, and will withstand from this game. So a lot of important things happened with this 1981 NFC Championship game. The best game, conference championship game, and arguably one of the best football games of all time, the 1967 NFL Championship. So at the time it was the NFL and the AFL. There was no NFL League and then NFC, AFC. It was primarily NFL and AFL, okay, for a while, in the Super Bowl era until 1969, pretty much. Then it transitioned. But you're looking at just one of the best games of all time, because it proved and it just brought everything that football stands for. Hard-nosed tackling, the will to win, the will to get that at the time it's just a Super Bowl trophy, but it would be called Lombardi Trophy. But that's the thing. A lot of things could have changed with this game. Lombardi does not win this game. We might have been calling this trophy the Tom Landry Trophy. honestly, I believe this could have been a Tom Landry trophy. Why? I feel like the Cowboys would have won if they were able to pull this win off. They would have won. They would have won that game. But you're looking at Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, two legendary coaches. It could have shifted, you know. It could have not been the Lombardi Trophy. It could have been the Landry Trophy. Instead, it's the Lombardi Trophy. The Packers definitely wouldn't have seen as title town. It probably, their whole streak of consecutive titles, like trying to get 3 consecutive titles. I know it's not the Super Bowl, but it counts, right? They wouldn't have been the first team to go 3 in a row. That wouldn't be possible. Eventually there would be, but I don't believe there was. I don't think so. I don't believe there's been a team that's ever gone back to back to back, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about history right now. My mind is all blocking out that part. But anyway, we might have had title town for Dallas. Honestly, a lot of things could have transitioned a lot. Lombardi maybe would have retired early. I don't know. Something would have happened. Maybe Bart Starr wouldn't have been the future QB. I don't know. All I know is that a lot of things could have changed, but this game proved what football is all about. It's about the cold. It's about toughness. It's about who's going to get where, who's going to score first. And it was one of those games where scoring was evidently very important. If you get the ball, you need to have as much opportunity as you can because you're not going to score much on this game. And we're going to look at that. And it all starts with the weather. It was a negative 13 degrees with the wind chill of negative 23. The wind was blowing 15 miles an hour in this negative 13 degree weather. That is terrible. That is cold. That's freezing. Like, I don't think there's ever going to be a team that's ever going to face that kind of thing. Honestly, that is miserably cold. Like, the turf, the field was literally a skating rink. It was hard. Like, you get hit there, oof, that's gonna hurt. Honestly, you ever feel when you try to catch a football in the coldest weather, how much that hurts for your hands? I feel like that's the case with here. I just feel like that's gonna, I feel like just this entire game, they didn't have the kind of gear that they have now. That's toughness, dude. That is some real toughness. So I give them credit for both of them. We're going to start a look at their lineups, though, before we do anything. And we're going to look at the Packers. We got quarterback Bart Starr, halfback Donnie Anderson. You got your Marv Fleming as a tight end. Your wideouts are Carroll Dale and Boyd Dowler. Your offensive line, Bob Gronkowski, Gail Gillingham, Ken Bowman, Jerry Kramer, Forrest Gregg. The D-line of Willie Davis. You got Ron Kostelnik, Henry Jordan, and Lionel Aldridge. Your linebackers, Dave Robertson, Ray Nitschke, Leroy Caffrey. Your secondary of Herb Adderley, Bob Jeter, Tom Brown, and Willie Wood. For the Cowboys, you got QB Don Meredith, halfback Dan Reeves, fullback Don Perkins. Your tight end is Pettis Norman. Your wideouts are Bob Hayes and Lance Rensel. Your offensive line, Ton Lucio, John Nealand, Mike Conley, Leon Donahue, Ralph Neely. The D-line, Willie Towns, Jethro Pugh, Bob Lilly, and George Andre. Your linebackers, Chuck Halley, Leroy Jordan, Dave Edwards. And the secondary, Cornell Green, Mike Johnson, Mike Gaker, and Mel Renfro. So overall, not a bad teams. Both fantastic. Both definitely wanting to get to the Super Bowl, as you will see during this game. So let's go with the game. First quarter, only scoring drive. Boyd Dowler, 8-yard pass from Bart Starr. It is now 7-0 Green Bay. Second quarter, Boyd Dowler, 46-yard pass from Bart Starr. 14-0 Green Bay. Cowboys come back. George Andre, 7-yard defensive fumble return makes it 7-14. And then Danny Villanueva, 21-yard field goal, makes it 10-14. Fourth quarter, Lance Rensel, 50-yard pass from Dan Reeves. It's now 17-14. And we all know about the game-winning drive Bart Starr had, where he led them there right at the 1. They didn't know how to do it. They tried running it. Bart goes up to Vince, says, I can run it. And his response says, well, then run the play and let's get the hell out of here. And he's laughing. It's like a typical Lombardi thing to do. Let's just do it. Let's go. And Barty's like, all right, I need like a wedge play. I need to make sure that I get in the end zone. Jerry Kramer, great block from him for sure. You know, the entire line was fantastic on the play. The entire game was fantastic. All the players were just superhuman guys that can play in the cold, cold weather. So, like I said, Warriors for sure. And Bart, he runs it in for a 1-yard rush. Green Bay wins 21-17, and they win. And they get to the Super Bowl, and they win. Literally as simple as that. They win the Super Bowl. And from then on out, Green Bay, you know, and Vince Lombardi, known as pretty much Titletown Green Bay Packers.